Bring this meeting to order. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Bowles?
Here.
Trustee Young?
Here.
Glad
Here.
Pledge here.
Okay. Let's stand and do the pledge to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Look at the minutes. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes over? And you thank Willa for being appropriate for the month of October, the symbol for breast cancer. Did you see anything they need to change?
Let's see.
You didn't either? All right, then is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
So
Moved by James, second by Terry. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Bowles?
Yes.
Trustee Young?
yes.
Glad
Yes. Okay, public comments, and I know Mrs. Margraf said she had a comment.
I would like to thank the people who turn on WPALTV to watch the township meeting. You really are very, very sharp individuals, and I think that they should learn what's going on with their local government and how well it's run. I would also like to call the attention of the public to WPALTV on Facebook, because if you turn there, you'll find out how you can see Will County government, your local town government, Monee, Beecher, and Peatone, and on WPALTV on Facebook, Meg Margaret, who runs the station, also lists all the activities that are happening in this area, all of the events. If any person wants to get it on the air, you can either just comment on that page or on that Facebook page, or you can contact WPAL for more information on how to get on there. But everything from what's happening in Governor State to what's happening in Joliet, the civic activities that are taking place in Peatone, Monee, and Beecher. You're bored on a particular weekend, find out what's happening in the local area and go there and have some fun. This area is growing, and the more it grows, the more that's going to be taking place, the sharper the individuals that are going to be coming into the area. And right now, Monee, the village of Monee, is being advertised on WLS radio. There's spots all the time telling people to come and find out what's going on WPAL, or what's going on in the Monee area. Share the information. Those who are listening and those who are here, share the information about WPAL-TV.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay. All right, supervisors report. The general assistance report. There were 11 intakes, 9 applications, 0 flat grants, 0 other aid. There were 16 received pantry. 1 was denied, 3 are pending, 1 terminated. There are 6 people on general assistance. The amount for general assistance this last month was $1,290. The amount for emergency assistance was $1,627, for a total of both VA and EA of $2,890.27. The senior committee has been working hard again. Of course, they've got a Halloween party on Friday, October 31st, which is going to be here at the township offices. And if they're seniors, they need to be registered. Are they filled up now? Okay, it's not filled yet, so there's still an opportunity for seniors that are 65 and over who live within Monee Township to register for the free Halloween luncheon. And hopefully they'll dress up, because some people do and some people don't. But we have a lot of fun. And then the holiday brunch, which again is free to Monee Township seniors 65 and over, is going to be on December 4th at the University Park Golf and Conference Center. It's a brunch And it's always great, they have entertainment, and it's a nice thing, and it is, as I said, it is all free, but it must be pre-registered. You have to be 65 and over and registered. Another thing I want to mention is we got this lovely plaque of the Monee Mavericks 2014 football and cheerleading teams. It says, thank you for your sponsor, thank you to our sponsor, Monee Township. And it's a lovely plaque. I can sit down that way, you can look at it, and then we can put it back together. But that was nice of them to do the plaque. Okay, clerk's report.
There, November 4th, Tuesday, November 4th is election day. There's like state and county candidates running. Also, there's some referendums and questions on it. I don't know if you received, most of you should have received the information from the clerk's office, which is very informative. It explains, how to vote to your polling place, and for your particular polling place, as well as places for early voting. And also on it, there's like, I'm sure that most people will be interested in this question. That's the status for raising the state minimum wage to like $10. So to get input, it's on the state of Iowa questions. But there are judges for retentions as well. So it's important that we get out and vote. November 4th, Tuesday, November 4th.
Did you also get in the mail the little pamphlet that had to do with all the different propositions that are going to be there? It was sent to us.
I received one,
Yeah, that one, and it does give you an explanation of what they are and the pros and cons of each one, so that if you got that, take a chance to look at that and make up your mind before you go in. Anything else, Bobby?
That's it.
Highway Commissioner is not here this evening. I believe they have a dress rehearsal for a wedding. And he said he was going to send us his report, and I think that he just has too much to do and that didn't get it done. So we will hear next month all about it. Assessor's reports on her.
Okay, well, I did tell everybody today was anti-bullying day, and I got my purple on, not everybody else does. But I just wanted to give you all some to go on. I'm just trying to finish up my input to the audit, and just to make sure that you all did get what I did provide, as far as a list of the calls and so forth. And I did get a chance to review the actual management letter, and I did have some questions on that. That's Exhibit 2. I think on the third page, whatever, where they talked about there was 32 items that were not recorded correctly from the assessor's office, assessor account. I didn't know what that was. So I can get that answer later, but that was just one of the things that
We can ask the auditor for a list of those. Some of them happen to be some accounts, and she explained in here some of them. And some of them I think that she will help with the meals were just misplaced, and others were where accounts were not put in the right account, because when Willa gets information from you and your sheets, then she applies whatever you tell her to whatever budget line item.
Right.
If that budget line item is wrong, then that's what they probably were talking about. But, you can ask, and we can ask for her real list.
Well, and that was one thing also that I didn't see on the letter where she had recommended, I mean, I saw on the audit letter, but I didn't see on the letter from the board, where she had recommended that a new line item be added for meals. So I guess that'll solve that for the most part.
We didn't put everything in there, we
Yeah.
put the most important things that we felt that were in the letter, because they were, that's why we, some of that you can, you could address and amend this year's budget, but it would take a hearing
Next
on
year.
that. So I would suggest that we
Okay.
just wait until next year, which is kind of what I'm doing
Right.
with some of, where should say to change the pantry, put it under social services. And
That's fine, that's fine. Okay, so I just had a couple of things then tonight, other than that. And I just said before I speak, I do want to at least, ask for no interruption. Not an interruption, but at least treat me respectfully, because I know sometimes I do get interrupted. I'm just trying to say these couple of things here. Again, at the last meeting, we went over the letter, and some of the things that the board was asking for was a list of the calls. And I did state at that time that it doesn't come with the bill. You are getting the bill now, and so I did see where, and I think Trustee Bowles pointed out too, that I could go online and print up the list, so I did provide that. So that should satisfy that. The other thing that you see, like Exhibit 1 and 2 is the letter and the audit. And so the next item is Exhibit 3 that you see, which again, I'm reiterating that it is by law protecting the employees, not necessarily employers, that they cannot be required to work more than 40 hours unless they are receiving compensation for overtime. And I don't see that the law says it has to be 40 hours, but just different people have different policies. But that's not what is included in the policy for the assessor's office.
we did clarify that last month, that it was not mandatory.
Right.
And that, you did set your own office policies
Right.
to some general office policies such as that.
Yes.
So that was clarified?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am. Then the second item was the fact that the office is part-time. I just wanted to explain a little bit, and I do explain a little bit in the newsletter too, that basically, because we have like certain tasks that's due on certain parts of the year, not the same kind of workload all year, but it tends to have work well for the prior assessor, works well for me. And I looked at, it's like 24 assessors in Will County, 14 out of 24 are all part-time. So I think that's kind of like the lay of the land for them. Although, as you say, next year we can address maybe going to full-time, but I know it's not in the budget this year for sure. But as we are part-time, and it's as the policies do already establish that on days when we have to work over. We don't do it on days when they're short days. We don't get any overtime, but we do on days when it's over 8 hours, and that's also in my policy. And then the last thing that I wanted to mention, that basically I do feel like it is being fiscally responsible to stay at part-time, but again, like I said, if what everybody insists that we go full-time, that's fine. We'll talk about that. In Exhibit 5, I did want to also just circle, because I did get the Monee Township handbook, and I do know that you recognize, because you had a statement in the front of the book saying that there are some policies that the Township Assessor and Highway Commissioner have that would be what they follow. So I was just pointing that out, that it is statutes that say that. But basically, other than that, I just wanted to give you all this just some recognition. Because I don't know if I'm going to be involved in a discussion of the handbook or anything, but this is just my statement, which says just what I just said. I know you realize that in your handbook in the front, that you say that there are procedures and policies that the assessor.
And that's why I put that disclaimer in.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure that, that
Right.
people understood that, this is my handbook for, the majority of that, and there are probably some policies in there that by state statute and by resolution, which is like the vehicle policy that you have to follow, but that there are some policies that you can make a change for yourself.
Right.
And that's why it was stipulated.
I understand, and I have given Bobby updated copies of this.
Anything else? Sandra, anything else?
No.
Okay. All right. Attorneys report?
Nothing to report.
Okay, we are going to look, and this is definitely just a draft of the employee handbook, and it's one that I got handbooks from Rich Township and New Lenox and not Will. Many townships do not have a policy manual. It's one that you should have, but it's something that I've been trying to work on for years, and now finally, since I'm, kind of retired, I had more time, and because it took a lot of hours to do this. And I was here in Monterey for a couple weeks straight. But I took Homer Township, it seemed to have the best organized manual. And so basically what I did is I used theirs as my guideline, and then I looked at the TOI, Township Officials of Illinois, also had on their website a suggested personnel policy. So where I didn't think it would work for us to see Homer's, then I would go back to the TOI policy and I would cut and paste and, use their wording. And sometimes I would use the wording that was in, say, Creeks or, other people. But basically what I did is I tried to just come up with some general policies that would work for us. And I sent it to Joe to say, hey, Joe, let us know. And I know one change that he did tell me is that on the page right after the index, the table of contents, which is the disclaimer and preliminary statement. And that paragraph at the bottom is to be crossed out, because as I said, I probably cut and pasted, but it says, you reserve the right to alter, amend, and rewrite this manual at any time, and that would stay there. But then it says pursuant to 35 ICLS, and these guidelines will be filed with the township clerk. That's not necessary, so that line comes out. That actually,
The top line stays.
pardon me?
The top
The
line
top line
stays.
stays, and where it says, we will say, remind this manual at any time, and, let's see, and then we'll have to put in the new sentence that says, the policy will be available to the public under the Freedom of Information Act. So we'll keep that last line, but just alter it a little bit. Was there anything else on that page?
Well, with respect to that, actually, the only thing you need to really delete is where it says pursuant to 35 ILCS
Okay, just
200,
cross that
section 2-65. I did a little checking, and actually, there are 3 virtually identical provisions. One is in the Township Code, one is in the Assessor's Statute, and one is in the Highway Commissioner's Statute.
They're all the same.
And they all read virtually identical, where the one for the Township Board actually says, and there's another point to make this, what the statute says is the board shall set and adopt rules concerning all benefits available to employees of the board if the board employs 5 or more employees. These rules shall include without limitation the following benefits to the extent they are applicable: insurance coverage, compensation, overtime pay, compensatory time off, holidays, vacations, sick leave, and maternity leave. These rules shall be adopted and filed with the township clerk. Amendments to the rules shall be filed with the township clerk on or before the effective date. So that's the provision that's in the town code. Okay. And actually, the assessor has already kind of mentioned the section that relates to her. because there's a provision in the Revenue Act, actually it is, that says, every township or multi-township assessor with 5 or more deputies and other employees shall adopt rules concerning all benefits available to employees, and then it goes on to read virtually identical to what I just read in the town, for the township. And then in the highway commissioners, in the highway code, there is a provision that reads virtually identical. Every highway commissioner with 5 or more employees in a county under township organization shall set and adopt rules concerning all benefits available to employees. And they read pretty much identical from there on about what benefits you're talking about, and it should be filed with the clerk.
All right.
So there's no reason to delete the part about the clerk, because everybody has to file with the clerk
Right.
anyway.
Do we need to, you said.
But the sections were different, is what the point I'm making.
So we need to, do we need to put in the correct section?
I don't really think so, because
Just cross that out
I
completely.
think you just leave out pursuant to 35 ILCS.
All right.
Instead of putting 60 ILCS or the highway code, I think you can just start the sentence by saying these guidelines will be filed with the township clerk, because
All right.
that's required of everybody.
Makes it easier, all right.
And the only other point I was going to say is that while all those statutes do say that it is mandatory if you have 5 or more employees to adopt rules concerning benefits, if you have less than 5, you can.
Right,
It's just that you don't have to.
right. And we don't really have to for the township side of it because we only have 1 employee.
I mean, the only thing I would say, ideally, and again, you're correct that, you know, so the assessor, the highway commissioner, and the board can all adopt, you know, the benefit of the handbook. You would hope they'd be consistent.
Well, there's going to be some differences, we know that. So, I mean, this is just basically the main handbook for the township, and then as the, and then I just said that if, it'll be up to each office to point out, you know, to their employees those items that are different from the main manual. So that will be Sandra's job and the highway commissioner's job to do that. Okay, so that's really the only thing on that page that we need to change, is take out pursuant to the state statute. We'll leave in, starting with capital, these guidelines will be filled, so that's good. Another thing I want to mention, then I was rereading that there, I've got 2 different things here. It's on page 18 and page 22. On page 22, it says if an employee terminates his or her employment, there will be no compensation for any unused accumulated sick time. But then on page 18, I had changed it to say unused sick time will be compensated for 20 days accrued, and personal days will not be compensated if there's resignation. And that's a question I want to bring to the board. So I can change that very easily to there will be no sick days. In checking with other townships, the majority of them do not pay for sick days if you do not use them when you resign. I also have my old company's policy, and where they did pay for a few sick days, and it was basically on the basis that if somebody's going to leave and say, I'm going to resign the end of March, they don't want them taking 20 days of sick days that they've accumulated, or 30 days, they've got it accumulated up to 30 days here, that, you know, so that you're ended up paying them and they're not there. So that was the only reason for that, but that can easily be changed. It's just up to what you as a board want to do. Feelings about it?
I haven't finished reading all this document.
Well, this is just discussion, and we'll discuss it again. I mean, it's not like we're going to urgent thing to pass it. We just need to try to do it. But as I said, the difference, as I said, between that policy on page 18 and 22 is something that I'd like to have on sick pay. How do you feel about it?
I'm on 18, page 18.
Right, and that one says that we would compensate up to 20 days. They can accrue up to 30 days.
So if they leave,
Right, but if they leave, that says we will pay them, but as I said, a lot of other townships do not pay.
And so it's 15 more reflective on page 22 of whatever townships?
22 is, yeah, that is far more reflective. The unearned sick time will not be paid.
So the decision to keep page 18.
Right, and just change it to what it says, it will not be compensated, will or will not be compensated. So the question is, do we want to compensate or not compensate? I mean, most townships do not, and I want you guys to make that decision.
I'd like to think about it.
All right, you want to think about that? Okay, think about it, and maybe talk to other people if you want to about those policies. All right, another thing that was the
See,
two,
I'm of the opinion, but I just want to think about it.
okay,
If they earned it and didn't use it, that says something about the integrity of the employee.
right.
Okay, so if they happen to resign for whatever reason, I would think they would be entitled to something in terms of the sick leave. But let me think about it for a while, because I know the school board, the school district I work for, there is a, I think they meet you part of the way. I don't think
That's
they
what I was
get all of it.
thinking.
They meet us part of the way. I gotta read it because we're in contract negotiations now. We're going to come up with
Well,
something.
also, there were a couple townships that did pay for sick day, but instead of paying at a full day, they paid like at 1/2, yeah, point, 0.5, or, so that's also a question, is that if we want to pay it, do we want to pay it a full pay, or do we want to do it like at halftime? But, so they're getting something compensated, but not necessarily the whole thing. So, and when you're thinking of that, that's keep in mind. And those basically were the discrepancies that I'd see. Now, you're gonna see this, there is a lot of, as I cut and pasted, I lost some of the format here and there. So there are some things that need better bullet points, and when Willa gets this eventually to redo, or to, make it look very nice and pretty, she'll be the one that has to figure it all out and how to do it, because I tried to do it on the thing and I was like, oh no, I'm making this worse, so I wasn't very helpful on that. But anything else, I mean, just general comments on this policy?
Can I add one thing?
Sure.
I just saw a lot of, where the resolution or whatever was termination, but I didn't see a whole lot of warnings or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I didn't see a whole lot of mentioning of that.
There were a few things in here that did that, and as to the process of that, and that did mention, that there could be a written or a verbal warning, and then, so there is something in there that did mention that, and I can't find the section right now, but it was mentioned. The biggest things in here are that, the benefits are, employment status and eligibility for benefits. Permanent full-time is an employee 37 and 7/5 of an hour to 40 hours. And a permanent part-time, they've got temporary. Full-time employees are hired and works scheduled to work 20 hours or more, 20 more hours, but less than 37.5 hours. The only other thing is that some people had in their exempt employee, which I was thinking about putting in here, so that's a question I had too. Willa has been basically an exempt employee where, they still get like all the full-time vacation and all that, but they're not usually paid overtime for little extra pay. I was just looking at page 9 for right now. That's the terminology, which is the employment status and eligibility. And then employee benefit eligibility is on page 10, and it says full-time employees are entitled to all benefits enumerated in this guide. Part-time employees are not entitled to any health benefits, paid sick time, personal day, bereavement leave, or retirement benefits, except employees may be entitled to retirement benefits if the employee exceeds 1,000 hours per year as provided by IMRF. Part-time employees are only entitled to prorated benefits for holidays and vacation days. So that's basically the biggest stipulations within,
What do you mean by prorated holidays?
I think it tells you now, it's just like, if you're taking a vacation, I think it's prorated vacation, did it say that? What did it say? The prorated benefits for holidays and vacation pay. It says here that you do not pay for holidays for part-time people unless they were actually scheduled to work. If they were actually scheduled to work, and I think it spells it out in here, then you would pay them their holiday pay. But if it was an off day, they would not be paid.
Okay,
But
so-
for the prorated benefits for holidays means that if somebody would normally work 18 hours a week and are taking a vacation week, then they would pay those 18 hours of vacation. That's prorated, basically what they're talking about there.
Okay, so like you say, if the holiday's on a Monday and somebody's not scheduled to work Monday, of course, they don't get paid
Right.
for the holiday.
Right. All right, well, I'll let you guys,
Yeah, I see a couple of things and I'd like to comment on, but I want to wait till I finish reading.
okay, well, let's, everybody kind of read it again, and we'll bring it back in November. And as I said, it was discussion only, we'll put it on again for discussion only for November. And anything else you saw, Joseph?
Yeah, one of the things that actually, it kind of touches a little bit on what the assessor was mentioning. There's a provision in here which is fine. It talks about employment at will.
What page?
It's actually on page 2. Where it defines employment at will so that it's clear that an employee can be terminated with or without cause. There's no contract, there's no fixed duration of a term. And if you actually then jump to page, I think it might have been page, deal with this one.
In the back, further in the
Page
back.
20,
Yeah.
28, page 28, where it deals with the issue of discipline, and it talks about the nature of the disciplinary action. I'm kind of in the middle of that first paragraph. The nature of the disciplinary action will depend upon the circumstances of the particular problem or violation. Examples of disciplinary action include, but are not limited to, verbal warnings, written warnings, unpaid suspension, and termination of employment. By signing this handbook, the employee agrees that Monee Township does not have a progressive discipline policy. I'm thinking it might be worthwhile to maybe explain just a little more what that means, because what most handbooks do have is that they, there is different types of discipline,
Right.
but that doesn't mean that you have to start at the lowest
Right.
level. Progressive discipline would say that, as you know, you start at a warning and then you work your way up. Well, I think you want to make it clear that you don't have to do that. If depending, of course, on the severity of what the violation is, you don't have to start with a warning. I mean, if it's bad enough, you can just
Terminate.
do a termination. I'm just thinking maybe another sentence, which I did craft a little bit of a
Okay,
sentence.
what
which I
would you
did.
like to put in there?
Well, what I said, and I was still working on the language, but the township may impose any of these methods of discipline depending on the nature of the violation.
Right.
So that, I mean, if somebody does something really bad, you don't have to give them a warning, you can just terminate them.
That's
And I think you want to be able to
That's-
observe that. That might
Okay,
be
township may impose any of these.
methods of discipline depending on the nature of the violation.
But isn't that sentence, the last part of that sentence say that you do not have a progressive discipline policy?
But my concern, you're right, it does.
It says the same thing, right?
My concern is that somebody may come and say, I didn't know what progressive discipline meant.
Okay.
Okay.
I-
we'll
me?
clear-
You know, so,
Actually, when I was putting this in there and doing that, I read that twice and I went, okay, then I had to have a thought process in place to think what it meant. And then I came up with the same conclusion, that it was like, it did take me a few minutes to
right,
kind of
and
figure it out.
It's not, you don't have to start with one.
You don't have to.
That's,
with the
yeah,
lowest
but
level.
it kind of seems like you don't have to have anything but termination. Although I know the statement before that says it could include any of those
Right.
things.
Right.
When you say you don't have.
But if it's bad enough that, sometimes that's where you go.
I mean,
I understand.
that is often an argument in these kind of employment things. when
Yeah.
somebody's terminated.
Yeah, but I also believe we need to have a policy on progressive discipline.
Yeah,
Because some people grow into the job,
I agree.
okay? And when they grow into a job, they expect to make mistakes. So, there's a fine line sometimes in how you interpret behavior. Some things are clear, and you're absolutely correct. But there could also be circumstances in which people just need to be able to express themselves, and then it's open to interpretation what the manager is going to do. But if you're going to encourage any type of stability in the employee, or any type of loyalty to the company, or any type of encouragement to be a long-term employee, you have to have some boundaries in which you allow that employee to grow into the job.
Right.
So my position right now is that I think we do need a policy on progressive discipline. But again, I haven't read all of this, only got through the first 6 pages. So, I just need some time to
Well,
process
as I
this
said,
some more.
The funny thing about progressive discipline, I mean, I've seen policies where frankly, they'll spend 2 or 3 pages on the progressive discipline. All the steps that have to be taken. And then usually at the end, they'll always say, however, depending on the circumstances, the employer can jump to the last
Right.
one anyway.
So, and I'm in a small township, I don't think we need, where it's like a school district where it says if you do this, A, you get a verbal warning, or you do this. I think that that's going to have to be at the, discretion, and Sandra and David and I know that, if something's just a nagging problem, it's gonna be something that you verbally warn something, and somebody, it's just, if it progresses, then and it doesn't, the verbal doesn't help, then you write a letter on it, so it's,
I don't dispute that, but I think that it needs to be, the playing field needs to be level for all the players, okay, including the employee. I don't want to, overlook the employee and how the employee might feel. Even though we're we're a small township, it doesn't mean that we have to ignore the perspective of the employee. And I just want the playing field to be level for all the players involved, that's all.
well, look at them all, look at it again, come back with some suggestions for changes, we'll have another, as I said, it'll be discussed again next month, and we will keep working on it. As I said, it's a work in progress, it was never meant to be anything more than just a draft, and you can see that I've done what I've said I was going to do. I'm going to get this policy manual written.
Well, that's a good thing, something we need,
Okay, the deadline for the newsletter is tomorrow, 8 a.m. So I know I'm in, Sandra's in, so if everybody's got their, do you have the military thing?
Yes, I just clarified,
Okay.
yep, I got it.
Did David get his in to you?
That's it.
All right, you better nag him because he's wedding planning, and maybe email him. So
I talked to him this morning.
Oh, okay.
Tell them we got a discipline policy.
Not really.
Yeah, tell him.
Well, that be his defense, right?
Okay, the TY Education Conference, November 9th to 11th. We are signed up, and I have my confirmation back. It's Maurice, Terry, Bobby, and myself are signed up to go right now. The Will Write program, we have a July payment due of $4,964.30 is our half of the cost. With the RTA, and the other half. And if there'd be a motion, please, to pay the July payment, I would appreciate it. By Karen,
Second.
okay, I have your roll call, please.
Trustee Bowles?
Yes.
Trustee Young?
Yes.
Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes. The Illinois Flames Track Club is not here again this evening. They are, from what Marisa said, they are working on getting a letter from the state reinstating their not-for-profit status. And once they get that, then they'll bring it to us, and it's for their next year's funding, so it's not going to be a problem. The youth committee, the biggest thing is that we had gotten a note. Is that right?
Jennings.
Yeah, from Dean Jennings, and I had sent a note after our last meeting asking Dean to please, let us know when we have dates available, and then he didn't respond, so 2 weeks later I sent a follow-up email, and he did finally respond, and they basically said that We hope to have our season schedule in place by mid-October. As of now, there'll be several dates that are unavailable. He suggests that we plan to start our family gym nights again in January. So what we're putting in the newsletter is that, we will, tentatively start our family gym nights back up in January or February, and depending on what we find out from GSU, because we don't really know what they're doing. GSU is, planning, they've gone to the four-year college, and you'd think that they'd have activities in place for their new students, but apparently it's one of those things that they just are behind on, and I think they might have been behind on getting an athletic director and all kinds of things. So we're unfortunately caught up in that, and that's the best facility for our youth right now, so we're waiting on them, and hopefully we can get this done by then. James, did you have anything to add? You want to talk about your motorcycle?
Yes, the NIPA program, and just for our listening audience, the NIPA program stands for National Youth Project Using Mini Bikes. I am still making progress. Since the last time that we met, a couple of things has happened. The University Park Public Library Board of Trustees has agreed to listen to the presentation on the NIPA program. And what I'm attempting to do is identify other entities that can contribute to supporting this program. Miss Alfreda Keller, who is a retired probation officer from Cook County, is also a motorcycle instructor for this program. She's going to be making a PowerPoint presentation to the University Park Public Library Board of Trustees on November 18th at 7:30 in University Park. So I'm encouraging all board members and our listening audience, if you're interested in this program that I'm trying to develop for our youth, she will be there. It'll save a lot of time if the trustees was present. And also you too, Don, if you're interested. It's going to be Tuesday night, November 18th at 7:30.
November 18th.
Yeah, November 18th. I was trying to get her to make the presentation this month, but there's just too much on the agenda for the library board, and I was told no. But, she will be there November 18th. I've communicated with her again this week and made her, remind her November 18th was a key date and that I will be inviting Monee Township Board of Trustees present. What I'm hoping to do after this presentation is also approach the village of Monee to see if they will buy into this program also. So there will be a collaborative effort among, significant entities within the various communities of Monee Township. These mini bikes, we still have 10 of them. They are in storage. They have been separated from Thornton Township. So we're hoping that these mini bikes can be used as a motivational tool and tied into some type of literacy that's going to encourage school attendance. It's going to encourage good grades, develop self-esteem, develop values that will allow our kids to stay off the street and be involved in something productive. It has worked in Cook County, so I see no reason why it can't work in Will County. It's just being able to package it together and hold people accountable and get our kids involved. I'm still in the progress in the phase of trying to develop it. Ms. Keller agreed to help me with it. I just need to make sure that once we put it all together, that other interested parties will buy into it to support it financially.
Right, which is important because if the program itself is at minimum 20,000, if not more besides that, and it's not something that the township can afford.
Right.
And so, that's why
I have not forgot that. Even Maurice reminds me too. So I have not forgotten.
But that's, thank you for continuing to work on it, and it's for the sake of our kids in our township, and that's always a good thing. So.
Yeah, the kickoff date, if everything goes as planned, we're still in the planning phases. The kickoff date won't be till the spring anyway. And maybe Sandra can help you with this. We need a large area in the township where we can ride those mini bikes. I I was talking with Maurice about the land on Olmsted, just east of Blackhawk, you know, right there between the, where the middle school ends to where, you know, the basketball courts are, and also from the baseball diamond to Western on the south side of the street on Olmsted. You remember, well, I don't know, you remember when we did the family fling, the area from the playground where the UP Lions play football at, that area right there up to Western, we often had horses up in that area. I was thinking about maybe that area could be used. If not, I don't know about the area behind Thornwood House, where the old skating rink used to be at, between the developmental center.
Doesn't the township own some
Yes.
property over there?
Yeah, but I don't know how much of
Might
it.
be worth-
I don't know, you know, of course it'd have to be mowed down,
Yeah,
but I don't know if that area would be big enough,
yeah.
depending upon the boundaries of it. But we need an area where we can ride the bikes. It doesn't have to be in University Park. You know, it doesn't have to be, it can be any place in the township. You know, a large area where you could ride these mini bikes.
But you have no idea who owns that piece of land on Western?
No, that's why I was gonna actually,
It's not the village?
I don't know, I've heard several things. You know.
Okay.
And then, you know, Maurice, not Maurice, but I think the school board is thinking about extending the middle school to include sixth graders. So again, I don't know how that's gonna impact that area, that land right up in there between the parking lot at the middle school to the playground area, you know, the basketball courts in that parking lot.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
I know
so-
that all of the park is village owned, so,
Are you sure? all-
but I just don't know where that boundary is.
Yeah, well, see, that's what we need to know, because there has to be a certain area, I can't think of the numbers right, there has to be a certain area.
It's online.
It's online? Okay, see, I haven't got to.
Zillow, so you're talking about like a Zillow or someplace like that?
No, the map,
The
the
map.
property map is on,
The
it's
GS,
on,
yeah.
it's on the county.
It's online.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
on the
I
county.
can't think of the numbers, I mean, she told me because there used to be an area in Riverdale they used to use, but it's too far to, you know, we need transportation to get our kids over to Riverdale. You know, I mean, if they're right here in the township, it'd be easier for them to get to a location in the township. You know, I even thought about the area over at Monee Reservoir, you know, someplace, you know, to the west of there. But again, I need somebody to identify this land and find out who owns it. There are some boundaries involved, and I can't think of the numbers involved, so I have to make a note of it, make sure I talk to Ms. Keller before the presentation on November 18th. But things are moving in the right direction. It's just time consuming, and you know, I mean, we have to be you know, specific about what we're going to do. I'm thinking about, you know, once we get things rolling, approaching the school district for referrals. Okay, because if we tie this into school attendance and tie this into academic progress, that could be a motivation factor for kids coming out, taking advantage of it. And of course, we have to set up a schedule because we only got 10 bikes. But it could, you know, serve as a useful tool of motivation, linking it between the township, residents within the township and the school board.
You said it's a big project, so.
Yeah, it is a big project,
We've done it
so.
for a while. Thank you. Okay, let's go into our trustee of accounts. I'm going to start the list down this way. This is from September 19th to October 16th for a total of $90,728.75. Jerry, if you sign that and hand that on to Bobby, I'd appreciate it. Are there any board comments? See none, then, oh, I'm sorry, to accept that, right. Is there a motion to approve the audit of accounts? Thank you. Moved by Terry. James?
Yes,
Second.
second. I was making a note.
Seconded by James. Roll call vote, please. Thanks.
Trustee Rose,
Yeah.
Trustee Young,
Yes.
Supervisor Debra.
Yes. Okay, now, if there are no board comments, then let's move on into, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Gary, second by James. Roll call vote.
Trustee Rose?
Yes.
Trustee Young?
Yes.
Supervisor Deborah?
Yes. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
The township provides many services. They provide literature, they provide food, there's shelves of food, people donate, and there's also, the churches this year have donated many, many coats, which the Monee Township makes available to those who need it. I don't know the procedure that they use, but there's certainly a great number of great-looking coats. So just call the Monee Township to find out what are the requirements to get one of these coats. And as I understand it, St. Paul Church did a huge amount of work to bring these coats, and many of them have already been taken.